What if I told you that the absolute worst thing that ever happened to me, the moment that shattered my world into a million unrecognizable pieces, became the very thing that qualified me to speak to you today? What if I told you that the darkness I feared would consume me was actually the womb where my purpose was being formed? We live in a world that is obsessed with the highlight reel. We scroll through social media and we see the empires, the accolades, the finished products, and the shiny exteriors of success. Everyone wants to change the world. Everyone wants to build a legacy. Everyone wants to make their mark and be remembered. But here is the secret that nobody tells you, the truth that is often edited out of the biography: history makers are not born in comfort. They are not forged in the safety of the harbor. They are forged in the fire of what almost destroyed them. They are birthed in the storm. For me, this journey didn't start with a brilliant business plan or a stroke of luck. It started with 2 funerals. It started with a little boy standing at the edge of a grave, having to decide if his story ended there in the dirt, or if it was just beginning. I want to take you back to a time when everything fell apart. I was 9 years old when my father died. I was 12 when I lost my mother. If you have never felt that kind of emptiness, I pray to God you never do. It is not just sadness. Sadness is a fleeting emotion. This was a void. It was a silence so heavy it pressed against my chest, a physical weight that made it hard to breathe. I remember lying awake at night in a room that suddenly felt too big, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of my own heartbeat, and asking God the question that has haunted humanity since the beginning of time: why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why was I left behind? And you know what the hardest part was? It wasn't the grief, it was the silence. There was no thunder from heaven. No burning bush. No answer. Just nothing. For a long time, I thought that silence meant abandonment. I thought it meant that I was alone in the universe. But looking back now, I realize that maybe that is where real faith begins. It doesn't begin in the miracles or the answered prayers or the mountaintop moments. Faith begins in the dark spaces between fear and hope. It begins in the wilderness, where you have to decide, against all evidence to the contrary, if you still believe in something bigger than your pain. I learned something in those wilderness years that no university degree could ever teach me. I learned that pain is energy. It can either bury you, crushing you under the weight of what could have been, or it can build you. It can be the fuel that drives you to build a life that defies the odds. I chose to build. I didn't have a trust fund waiting for me. I didn't have a network of wealthy connections to open doors. What I had was a beat-up laptop, a dream that kept me awake at night, and an unreasonable, almost delusional amount of stubbornness. I remember the nights spent in crowded internet cafes, the humidity sticking to my skin, the sound of 100 keyboards clicking around me. I taught myself design when I couldn't afford a designer. I learned to code when I couldn't afford a developer. I built websites for people who couldn't pay me, just to prove that I could. For every acceptance letter I imagined, I received a dozen real rejection letters. I stared at visa denials that felt like the world telling me, "You don't belong here." But every time a door slammed in my face, I would go back to my room, look in the mirror, and ask myself, do I quit? Do I let the statistics win? Or do I become undeniable? I decided to become undeniable. I realized that the version of me that succeeds wasn't going to be found in the spotlight. He was being built in the seasons no one saw, in the grind, in the quiet discipline of doing the work when no one was clapping. That brings us to the building phase. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, but they forget to mention that it was built brick by brick, often in the dark. Every empire starts with one brick. Every movement starts with one person daring to ask, what if? When I started Rapido Relief, it wasn't because I had excess funding or because I wanted a tax write-off. I started it because I remembered the gnawing feeling of hunger. I remembered what it felt like to need help and have the phone ring into an empty room. When you have been the one in need, you don't forget. You can't forget. The memory is etched into your bones. So you build something that makes sure no one else has to feel that alone. You build the lifeline you wish you had. And then there was Rags to Travel. This wasn't just a travel blog. It wasn't just about pretty pictures of sunsets. It was a declaration of war against the limitations placed on a kid from my background. It was about proving to myself, and to every kid who grew up in a neighborhood like mine, that your zip code does not determine your destiny. It was about proving that the world belongs to the bold, not just the wealthy. I have now stood on 6 continents. I have walked down cobblestone streets in London where the rain felt like poetry. I have stood in the humid heat of a Colombian festival where the drums beat in time with my own heart. I have prayed in small, silent churches in Brazil and bargained in the chaotic, vibrant markets of Nigeria. And every single border I crossed taught me the same lesson: The world is both massive and incredibly small. We are all just trying to matter. We are all looking for proof that our lives mean something. I have looked into the eyes of people who didn't speak my language, yet we understood each other perfectly because the language of struggle and the language of hope are universal. The Nigerian orphan, the Brazilian dreamer, the British hustler, the Colombian artist, we all want the same thing. To be seen. To be heard. To know that we are not invisible. Purpose has no passport. Success isn't about where you come from. It is entirely about where you are willing to go. So, I started documenting. I started History Maker 101. Not because I had it all figured out, God knows I didn't, but because I remembered what it felt like to search for hope at 3 a.m. and find nothing but highlight reels and empty, sugary motivation. I wanted to offer something real. I wanted to show the scars, not just the trophies. Because real inspiration isn't about perfection. It's about proof. It's about showing the world that you can be broken and still be standing. You can be rejected and still be worthy. You can start with zero and still end up with everything that matters. But let's get real for a second. What does it actually mean to be a history maker? We throw that term around a lot. Let me tell you what it is not. It is not about going viral. It is not about the follower count, the blue check mark, the features in magazines, or the applause of the crowd. Those things are vapors, they are here today and gone tomorrow. I have had the big stages. I have had the moments of recognition. And you know what I remember most? It's not the applause. It is the direct message from a stranger who said, "I was going to give up, but I saw your story and I decided to try one more time." It is the young entrepreneur who launched their dream because I was honest about my failures. It is the single parent who looked at my life and saw a future for their own child. Being a history maker isn't about the spotlight. It's about being the light someone finds in their darkest moment. It is using your scars as a roadmap to help others navigate their own pain. It is leaving fingerprints of hope on every soul you touch. My daughters are watching me now. They will grow up knowing their father wasn't perfect. They will see my flaws, my bad days, my mistakes. But they will also know that he kept going. They will know that he didn't let the tragedy of his childhood define the trajectory of his adulthood. They will know that he turned his pain into purpose. That he decided his story would be bigger than his struggle. That is the legacy I am building. Not a monument of stone, but a legacy of resilience woven into the DNA of the next generation. That is what history makers do. We don't wait for permission. We don't wait for the conditions to be perfect, because they never will be. We don't wait for the fear to go away, because it never does. We just start. We build. We share. We rise. And we bring as many people with us as we can carry. So, I don't have all the answers. I am still figuring this out as I go. I still have days where I doubt. I still have days where the old fears creep back in, whispering that I am an imposter, that I am just that scared little boy trying to act brave. But then I remember that little boy. I remember him standing at the grave, feeling the world collapse around him. And I realize, this right here? This moment? The fact that I am breathing, speaking, building, living? This is him winning. This is the victory. And if I can go from orphan to entrepreneur, from broken to builder, from a local dreamer to a global traveler, then I have to ask you, what is your excuse? You were born for more than just survival. You were born to rise when others fall. You were born to rebuild when others retreat. You were born to become the history maker of your own story. I look at the horizon now, and I don't see the end. I see the beginning. I see a world that is desperate for authentic leaders, for people who are willing to bleed, sweat, and cry to build something that lasts. I see a generation that is tired of the fake and hungry for the real. And I invite you to join me. Not to watch me, but to walk with me. To take your own pain, your own rejection, your own wilderness years, and turn them into your superpower. Because the only difference between a tragedy and a triumph is what you decide to do with the wreckage. You can build a shelter, or you can build a castle. The choice is yours. And just so we are clear, being a history maker also means being willing to be really, really bad at things first. It means embracing the mess. Like that time I tried to film a cinematic vlog in the rain and destroyed a camera I couldn't afford to replace. Or when I got lost in Sao Paulo for 6 hours because I was too proud to ask for directions in Portuguese. Or when my daughter photobombed a serious motivational moment and reminded me that life isn't meant to be taken so seriously. It's messy. It's human. It's beautifully imperfect. And that is exactly why it matters. So, start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Your story starts now. Subscribe for stories that move you to move. This is History Maker 101. Let's build something that outlives us.